Wow, interesting. Hey, welcome back to Farley's Library. You just caught me in the middle of a great book. This book is called The Universe. It's written by John Frandon and illustrated by Rob Jakeway. This book answers over 100 questions about our universe. Questions like, what is the sun? Or why does the moon look like cheese? Or what's in the middle of a black hole anyway? Well, if you want the answers to those questions, you just gotta open the book. But before we do that, I want you to come with me on a little trip. I got a call from my friend Richard Walker. Richard is the astronomer at the Longway Planetarium, and he wants us to come down for a visit. He's got some things to tell us about. So come on, it'll be fun. This is the Longway Planetarium. It sits on the banks of the beautiful Flint River. When you first walk in, you're greeted by a mural that tells the story of our space experiences. Let's head to the dome and meet Richard for our interview. I've got a lot of questions for him.
When I was growing up, whenever there was somebody in space, I would race home after school, turn on the television and watch the news coverage, and I was fascinated by the idea of people going into space. And that led to learning about outer space and eventually becoming an astronomer. I got my first telescope seriously when I was 7 years old. And I would take it outside at night to look at the moon. The first planet I ever remember looking at was Mars. You have to take advantage of every clear night. So that's the observing part. But for learning about outer space, learning about astronomy, it's basically study and learn, realize that every single branch of math and science is somehow involved in astronomy. It's a toss-up between Mars and the asteroids, but probably Mars. Somebody said, we've got a rocket ship, and we're going to send it to Mars, and we need someone to go. Would you go? And I would say, yes, absolutely, send me. There have been a large number of missions that the United States and the Russians have sent to Mars. But Spirit and Opportunity are the two that really cracked open our learning about Mars. They taught us so much more about Mars than we ever knew before. And they, of course, enabled the Curiosity mission, which is currently on Mars, and bigger, faster, able to travel even farther. So without Spirit and Opportunity, Curiosity wouldn't have been possible. Two things, both planets. So when it's starting to get dark, 9:45, 10 o'clock, low in the west-northwest, incredibly bright, that star that you see is not a UFO. It is not a star. It's actually the planet Venus. So that's number one. The other one is high up in the south after dark, say again about 10, 10:15, so it gets nice and dark. The planet Saturn is there. And the way you can tell Saturn from the nearby stars is planets, when they're high like Saturn is right now, they don't twinkle like the stars do.
Richard shared a lot of great info. Now it's time for the show. The planetarium is known for its great shows that teach you about constellations like the Great Bear or Queen Cassiopeia sitting on her throne, or mysterious space objects like this disk orbiting a distant star. They even have shows with lasers and rock and roll. But whatever show you see, it'll be a crowd pleaser. And after the show, visit the planetarium's gift shop. So, if you want to know what's out there, go to the Longway Planetarium. Wasn't that a great trip? We learned so much, and we're going to learn even more on our next trip. We're about to take a trip on a bus with two kids who are just trying to get home. But in order to get home, they've got to prove they actually know where they live. Can they do it? Well, we'll find out in this book, My Place in Space. This book is written by Robin and Sally Hurst and illustrated by Roland Harvey with Joe Levine. This is a great book, and to find out how great, we're going to open it up and take a look. Come on. My Place in Space, written by Robin and Sally Hurst, illustrated by Roland Harvey with Joe Levine. Not so long ago, Henry Wilson and his sister Rosie were waiting for a bus. When it arrived, the door swung open and a tall, rather scruffy bus driver peered down from the top of the steps. "What's your name, sonny?" "Henry Wilson," replied Henry politely, "and this is my sister Rosie." "And what can we do for you?" asked the driver. "We would like to go home," said Henry. "Home?" asked the driver rather loudly. Henry wished the man would speak more softly. "Home!" repeated the driver just as loudly. "Are you sure you know where you live?" The bus driver laughed and winked at two young women sitting at the front of the bus. They began to giggle. "Do you know where you live?" asked the bus driver, and everyone stared at Henry. Henry gritted his teeth and took a deep breath. "Yes, I do. We live at 12 Main Street, Gumbridge. Our house is on the north side of Main Street. The town of Gumbridge is just over the river." Henry looked at the driver, whose grin was fading slightly. It seemed as though the man wanted to speak, but no words were coming out of his mouth. Henry took a deep breath and continued. "Gumbridge is just a typical country town in Australia. Australia is in the southern hemisphere of the planet Earth," continued Henry. The driver stopped laughing. Rosie squeezed Henry's hand. Henry gained courage, took another deep breath, and went on. "The planet is one of 9 known planets which circle the star we call the Sun. Earth is the 3rd planet from the Sun, 93 million miles away from it. In fact, it takes 8 minutes for the Sun's light to travel to Earth. That may seem a long way, but it's 3.7 billion miles to Pluto, the 9th planet from the Sun. Sunlight takes about 5.5 hours to travel to Pluto." Rosie, who had not taken her eyes off of Henry, nodded her head in agreement, but the driver said nothing, even though his jaw was moving up and down. "We call the sun and planets our solar system," continued Henry. "The solar system is in the middle of a group of stars we call our solar neighborhood. Our sun's neighbors are stars of all colors and sizes. You can see them in the dark skies of Gumbridge on any clear night. The nearest star is called Alpha Centauri. It takes over 4 years for its starlight to reach Earth. Other stars, like the big red star Antares, are way out at the edge of the solar neighborhood, about 500 light years away. That means it takes 500 years for their light to reach us." Rosie smiled at Henry and took another deep breath, just like him. "Our solar neighborhood is just a small part of the Orion Arm. That's a giant curve in space made of millions of stars gathered in solar neighborhoods. Among the stars are huge clouds of dust and glowing gases. You can see the dust clouds from Gumbridge too. They look like dark patches in the very starry parts of the sky." The driver checked his watch. He looked as though he was about to say something, but Henry quickly continued. "The Orion Arm is just one of the arms of a huge group of about 300 billion stars. This whole group is called the Milky Way Galaxy. If you think it's a long way to Gumbridge or even to the nearest star, that's nothing really. It takes light 100,000 years to cross from one side of the galaxy to the other. Our galaxy is called a spiral galaxy because of the way its arms make a spiral shape." Henry let go of Rosie's hand so that he could demonstrate the shape of the spiral arms. "Of course, the Milky Way isn't the only galaxy in space. There are 20 galaxies in our local group of galaxies. Ours is the second largest. The largest is called the Andromeda Galaxy. It's a spiral galaxy too," said Henry, making more spiral shapes for the driver. "Light from the stars in the Andromeda Galaxy takes over 2 million years to reach our galaxy. Most of space is just that, space," added Henry, trying to relieve the driver's puzzled look. The driver's face was turning slightly red. Henry went on. "Our local group of galaxies is just part of a huge group of galaxies called the Virgo supercluster. It takes light a few million years to cross our local group of galaxies, but it takes a few 100 million years to cross from one side of a supercluster to another. The driver's face was now red, and he was shaking his head from side to side. Henry took one more deep breath and, waving both arms to make a large circle, he said, "And the whole universe is filled with superclusters of galaxies." Rosie stepped forward, clenching her fist and standing up straight. She said, "So, we do know where we live. We live at 12 Main Street, Gumbridge, Australia, Southern Hemisphere, Earth, Solar System, Solar Neighborhood, Orion Arm, Milky Way Galaxy, Local Group of Galaxies, Virgo Supercluster, the Universe." "May we get on the bus now, please?" asked Henry. The end. Wasn't that a great trip? I mean, as soon as I got back to Farley's library, I pulled out my telescope, and I can't wait until it gets dark so I can look up into the night sky and see all of the really cool things up there. But while I'm waiting, I've got some books to share with you. So let's get into it. This first book is written by Marianne Burks and illustrated by Janine Mason. The book is called Going Around the Sun, Some Planetary Fun. Now, it's written as a poem, and it tells you all about our solar system. Everything from the sun to our dwarf planet Pluto and everything in between. And if you want to find out about it, all you got to do is open the book. Our next book is written by Drs. Mike Goldsmith and Mark Garlick. This book is called Universe, Journey into Deep Space. Now, this book is for our older readers, but anyone can enjoy it and learn from it. This book is full of interesting facts and ideas about our entire universe. Everything from our planet to our solar system to our cluster to our galaxy to our entire universe. And if you want to know about it, all you got to do is open the book. Our last book is written by Gregory Matloff. Now, if you've got a telescope like I've got a telescope, you'll want this book. It's called Telescope Power, and it's full of interesting facts and details and things to do to help you get the most out of your telescope. So grab this book, grab any of these books, and grab your telescope and enjoy the night sky. We still got a little while to wait until it's dark, so I'm going to sit here and watch the sky and wait for that sun to go down, but I'm going to have a book with me, and I hope you do too. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.
If you need a book, come take a look.